Today, we will discuss digitization, the risk that comes from digital overuse. What is digital addiction? What happens in the brain when a kid or anyone else is too much on the pixel screen? I am Dr. Lalith Mendis of the Colombo Empathic Learning Center. We have to maintain the 1 hour to the next hour balance in a child's life. The study pattern or the working pattern must follow our brain's default mode network of thought. That's the graphic you will see very soon, where a child works or a person works for a 1 hour period, beginning with salience or focus. Dopamine, the neurochemical transmitter in the prefrontal cortex that's here, begins to work to keep us in focus, in attention. That's called salience. So we keep studying or keep working, having initiation, navigation, successful in conclusion. Then the work of dopamine is done in about 40 to 45 minutes every hour. Then dopamine must come down. And at that time, dopamine works on the DA1 physiological dopamine receptor. And once you have had that sense of good conclusion, inside you there is this thing about how well did I do, then serotonin begins to work, which is also a neurochemical transmitter, for the next 10 to 15 minutes, suggesting to us how we can improve, connecting, relating, collating, self-check, and always the brain design is to check back and see how we may improve. So you will realize it's not only a study pattern or a work pattern, it becomes a character pattern for the child or the adult for us to check back and see how we can improve. That's the motive for us for the next hour. So roughly when we have gone through this 1 hour period of the default mode network, dopamine keeping salience, attention to the focus, and then serotonin taking over satiety or reward motive. When we finish so with 1 hour, then in the next hour we begin with a good momentum of having done well in the last hour. So when we are studying or working, we have this sense of time that we have gone on for about an hour. What happens when a child is on the digital screen with intense digital activity, pixel screen with intense digital activity? Then the child's dopamine does not come down. It goes on, and it becomes, the receptors shift from physiological DA1 to addictive DA2. Then the dopamine is on an uptake, and it has the effect of cocaine then to do the same thing again and again. And the child or the person does not move to a reward motive, instead of which he wants to do the same thing again and again. That becomes addictive behavior. And in our next talk, we are going to look at how we shift from top-down empathic regulation to bottom-up dyspathic regulation. That will be the next topic in our next short clip. Thank you for listening. If you want any help on this line, you can contact me on 074 211 5011. In this second clip, we are going to look at how a child or a person begins to study or work when they have shifted from the empathic mode of learning and studying to dyspathy because of the digitization. I have already explained how the top-down regulation shifts to bottom-up regulation. I am Dr. Lalith Mendis from the Colombo Empathic Learning Center. So what happens is, increasingly the child becomes inattentive. Attention span goes down. Attention depth goes down. In the class, the child will be jittery because of the digitization of the brain tracts, namely that the dopamine is too active, dopamine levels are too high, and the child is not getting back to satiety mode of check back about what they are doing. So from a 10-year-old child who should have an attention span of about 40 minutes for the class period, by the time it's about 20 minutes, the child feels jittery and wants to move around, disturb others. Then they get into problems and teachers may start pulling them up. So, these clips must be listened to and studied by parents, teachers and even medical doctors. I am Dr. Lalith Mendis and my background is as founding head of Department of Pharmacology in a state medical faculty. Brain chemistry begins to change. So, when a child is on top-down regulation, he has initiation, navigation, successful and conclusion, and he is looking for the reward motive. What he is doing is good for him, his future, is good for his parents. So, from hour to hour, we have to keep the default mode network of studying well to focus and then moving into check back. But a child who has got digitized too much on the pixel screen, he begins to move into bottom up regulation, which means he is in dyspathy, he is reflexive, reactive, hostile, he can't study at depth, he is disturbed within and he disturbs others, and he will begin to do different things to attract attention, distract others, and this he begins to feel risk taking is easy. He loses sense of what is risk and moves on to increasingly risky behavior. This is the stage at which parents must know to understand risky behavior and detect early symptoms. So, please do not allow them to isolate, be in the room all the time. Please insist without fighting with them to join in meal times. As the child gets isolated and increasingly digitized, he or she will be by herself with the digital gadget. So, as a precautionary method, as you are giving a child a laptop or any other smartphone for study purposes, you must tell them, darling, please do not take this with you to bed. So, at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock by latest, they must hand in the digital instrument which is used for online studies. This is very important. So, the parents have to be trained to observe risk making behavior because they lose sense of peril. They want a fight, fright, flight mode. Their language begins to change. They may use words like stupid, idiot, subject is stupid or teacher is stupid or fight with siblings and be careless. These are signs that the digital screen is affecting the dopamine activity. Too much dopamine, too much addictive behavior, too much risk taking behavior, and also that kind of hostile behavior, hostile thinking to family members, and isolation away from meal times, too much time spent by themselves, moving away even from friends or making friends on the basis of digital gaming. So, you have to watch over this, and my slogan is read the science to them. I have done many books, some of them will be shown on the clips, Right Learning and Mom and Dad Mistake Management. Parents to read with the kids the books for them to understand the science. And this graphic that you have seen is how in the prefrontal cortex we have top down regulation, the executive empathic way of making decisions, or else the child slips into this risky behavior of like when we slip on a banana skin, there is a way we suddenly adjust ourselves. So, that is only when we face risk or unexpected trouble. But the child begins to move more and more in that risky kind of behavior and they lose their sense of risk assessment. So, climb a height and move on to a balcony, balance themselves on the balcony wall and try to take a selfie, or climb a mountain and be on a stone ridge and try to take a selfie. So, increasingly their sense of risk has gone out of their thinking. That is why the risk taking behavior is taking over. So, parents must understand when a child is moving from normal behavior to risk taking behavior. Initially they take small risks, increasingly their food habits will change. They will want to eat quickly, quick eats that feeds their digital habit, because they will not want to have a proper rice and curry meal, because they feel if they are on the rice and curry meal, then they lose their digital sense of intoxication. So, that is a dangerous stage to be in. Parents must watch over it, and in the next one I will go on to letting you know what are the things we should do to prevent digitization even while on online studies. Thank you for listening. You can please send me a WhatsApp to plus 94 74 211 5011. I can send you more details on risk prevention. Thank you for listening. This is clip number 3 in the series of digitization risk diagnosis, detection and prevention. I am Dr. Lalith Mendis from Colombo Empathic Learning Center. So, in this we are going to concentrate on how to prevent a child getting digitized while being online. First thing is to plead with them not to get into digital gaming long hours. Second thing is never to use 2 gadgets at the same time. Third thing, you have to plead with them not to take their digital gadget to bedtime. So, there has to be a digital curfew time, which means after 9 or after 10, please do not go to the bedroom with the digital gadget. Many boarding schools in other countries insist on this. Fourthly, they must keep their normal meal times, because that regular mealtime activity with the family prevents the digitization by dopamine being too high, because at meal time oxytocin gives good communication, serotonin gives good satisfaction, and GABA is the empathy neurochemical transmitter, good family talk. So, at meal time do not talk criticism, do not ask hard questions, plan your meal times for the complete well-being of the child. Then ensure they get enough sleep. So, my slogan is do not fight with them, please read the science with them. For this purpose I have written many books, they are available, and study the graphics that are available, which are some of these clips carry those graphics also. Then to help your kid to plan the day, dad sit with them and do a date timetable for the whole day, not a strict one. Once a week sit with them on a Saturday or a Sunday and say, darling, now 6 o'clock you get up and then you go to school, 2 o'clock, 2:30 you come back, take a rest, 3 o'clock what is it, tuition or whatever, 4 o'clock what is it, like that you just go through the thing, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and put clear meal times, family times into the timetable. And in the morning before dad goes to work, please check with the kids, now what's your timetable today, how is it going, in a friendly tone. You have to get this family time into their life every day, little pep talk on it, not to be strict but to encourage them. So, family time and good meal times, good sleep time prevents them from getting into digitization risk. Which risk factors, how to detect it, I have already told you. So, if they are isolating themselves to the room, avoiding family times, you must take note of it, then you have to go for expert advice. At the same time, I have to tell you that we do not encourage unnecessary prescription drugs for kids who are having this kind of learning difficulty or behavioral difficulty. We suggest empathic therapies, understanding the child and working with the child. In the next clip, we will discuss such empathic learning methodologies that will prevent digitization, in fact help the child to recover. Thank you. I am Dr. Lalith Mendis. If you want to be in touch, you can also send a WhatsApp to plus 94 74 211 5011. In this fourth clip of managing digitization risk, I want to speak about the methodologies that are available to prevent kids getting into digital trouble and also recovering them. I am Dr. Lalith Mendis of the Colombo Empathic Learning Center. First thing, attend on the child's daily timetable. It is good to wake up by at least 6 a.m. to see the early morning sunlight and the bio clocks get into action and the adrenocortisol axis begins properly. If not, child jerks into action midday at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning. That is not a good way to begin, because the child will feel stressed all the time. Similarly, you have to reduce the caffeine content and you have to not allow energy drinks at all, because they work at tandem together to increase the digitization risk. I have already spoken about regular meal times together and a good sleep time. If the child is sleep disturbed and is having bad dreams or no dreams, that means the child is not having a regular sleep time. They wake up in the morning complaining subject is stupid, school is stupid, you know, they use language like that early morning or before going to school because they can't remember what they studied. And so when they are studying, they must have a clear study period of about 3 hours if the kids are in the O-level time, grade 9, 10, 11. During that 3 hours of study time, not that they study 3 hours at a stretch, but when that's a study zone. You have to plead with them not to use digital gadgets for gaming at that time. A child, if he's on gaming a lot and starts studying, he will not remember anything. Other thing is, they will say we concentrate better or sit in one place when we have music in our ears. They sit in one place, but music in the ears and studies don't go well together. So you must keep the study zone or the study hours separate from digitizing and digital games. Now our effort is to reduce or completely remove digital gaming, but at least we have to get the digital gaming times out of the study times. Because after a study time, if the child immediately gets into digital gaming, the child will not remember what the child has studied. So the child, what you normally study gets into RAM memory, random access memory. It takes 4, 5, 6 hours to get into permanent memory. So what the child has studied, she will not remember if she is soon back into digital gaming. So these are some tips about how to keep what you studied in your memory. Also, we encourage sports, and we have this graphic that you see. The clip that you are seeing is of our Den and Dare at Borella Empathic Learning Center, where kids come as teams, or dad comes or mom comes, and they can do the rope activity. We call it GARTS, grip and rope thrill. And while they do that grip activity, what looks like swings, their internal glutamate in the brain begins to regulate the dopamine excess. The next clip you are seeing is our outdoor center at Pamanagama Jayala, where activities can be arranged for schools, school teams, prefect teams, where 4, 5 hours of that kind of activity intentionally gets them out of that digitization drive, with dopamine coming down because of this kind of sports activity. Even at home, you can hang a cricket ball and do light cricket practice, take games like carom, making puzzles, then the table tennis. Also, while the child is on online study, if you rub your feet on a little choir mat, then the digitization effects goes down. Also, don't look at the screen unless necessary while on online studies. Encourage them to take down study notes. So these are some tips about improving your study patterns and removing the digitization and the digitization risk. For any more details, you can contact our number of Colombo Empathic Learning Center. I am Dr. Lalith Mendis, +94 74 211 5011. Thank you for listening. We will join again with clip number 5.